Hi, welcome to my channel where I talk about my life in grad school. Today I'm going to focus on the curriculum that I took in clinical counseling and my IO Psych PhD course or program. So I'm going to talk about how the coursework lined up, how I did both at the same time, and kind of like how I managed those schedules, what was it like. If you're interested in doubling up, I guess, your grad work and kind of like doing two programs at once or doing two specialties at once, this can kind of give you a glimpse into how that would look, or at least how it looked for me and what I did. So I'm going to share my screen because I actually have like kind of like a layout of what I did. Let's start at the top. Okay, so I have like a layout of what I did, and I kind of just like crossed it out as I went along. So the first year was 2018, and my first class in my counseling program is on the left, my IO program is on the right. The first course I took was Intro to Counseling and Ethics, and then for my IO doctorate program, the first course was History and Systems of IO Psychology. So basically pretty self-explanatory, basically introductory classes. The second class I took was Theories. So this first year, I took one class at a time for each program. So and I believe at the time I was working full-time as a dialysis technician. So I was working full-time, I think it was full-time there was like 35 hours, but I worked 40 hours a week, and it was like 10-hour shifts, so I didn't work every day, which was nice. So anyways, I did these classes when I would get off of work. So yeah, basically I was able to do it on my own schedule for the most part. The next class I took was Theories of Counseling and Psychotherapy, and then Ethical, Legal, and Professional Issues. More introductory classes. You know, every program that you take, they're going to talk about theories, they're going to talk about intro to this, intro to that, and they're going to talk about ethics and legal issues that you need to be aware of before you start doing any of the core course. I mean, those are core courses, but before you start getting really into it, they're going to give you those classes. I actually liked the Ethical, Legal, and Professional Issues course. I didn't think I would, but I actually liked it a lot. It was a bunch of like actual real life issues that have happened, and we had to like discuss them and why they were illegal or why they were unethical and things you should do instead and things like that. So anything with practical knowledge that I can apply to the real world or that has happened in the real world that I can learn from, I actually like those kind of courses. Okay. So then I took helping relationships. So this was in the spring. All right, wait. This was in January-ish, winterish, spring. They call it spring, so spring. This was in spring as well. Or was it in spring? Or maybe it was summer. This was in summer. So, okay. Helping relationships and skill development. Basically, that was just another introductory level course for first year students. We had to learn about like building rapport with our clients and you know, being empathetic and how to your body movements and how you sit matters and how they sit matters, what they're doing with their bodies. You just become very hyper aware of what you say, how you say it, how you sit, how you move, and why you're moving that way, why they're moving that way, and why do you feel the way you feel. Like it's very very like intensive of like really paying attention to other people and really paying attention to yourself. And along with that course, we had to do a residency where we have like a 1 week long intensive therapy skills workshops in Chicago, where we went and we would just like do, these counseling skills together every day, all day, basically. So I took a week off work for that. We had to do that both first and second year. So I would take a week off work. Honestly, for me, I loved it. It was kind of like a vacation. Even though we spent all day working on counseling stuff and it was exhausting, it was still nice just to get out and do something other than work and go to school, you know. Like, so then I also took advanced organizational theory during that time. I think for when I was in residency, I think what I did was I did my homework early so I wouldn't have to worry about it this course that week. I think, yeah, I did probably do my homework early. Okay, so diversity and multiculturalism, and then advanced organizational development and change. Basically, this one talked about diversity and multicultural issues in the U.S. Throughout history, kind of. And it just talked about different cultures and subsections of cultures, which was pretty interesting to hear about, you know, other cultures and the diversity issues that those cultures have had throughout history. Then advanced organizational development and change. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of self-explanatory. Organizational development and change. So then we did lifespan development in the summer. No, this is fall, so that was summer. This is fall, lifespan development and clinical mental health counseling, and then advanced statistics and analysis psychology, job and task analysis, and I also did a practicum that year. It was a social justice practicum, and it was not required by my school, but it was like something that we could do if we wanted to, and so I wanted to do it because I figured it would give me more experience. And yeah, and I did, and I actually worked where I interned. Now I worked there, so I kept in touch with them after the internship. They were hiring this year, and I applied, and so now I work there. So that's how that went. So it is good to keep connections after you do your practicum, after you do your internship. Everybody says that, but like it is very important because you don't know where it could lead you, basically. Okay, so the second year I did psychopathology, basically abnormal psychology and lifespan, throughout, you know, lifespan, like adolescence, childhood, adult, you know, older age, stuff like that. And then advanced consulting skills, where we, you know, did advanced skills for consulting with organizations and organization leaders and things like that. Diagnosis of mental health issues is self-explanatory. Attitude, theory, measurement, and change. This was an interesting course because we really talked a lot about like how people's attitudes impact organizational development, and how to measure develop like organizational change. I don't know how to explain it, but for example, I believe it was in this course where I had a case study where like there was an organizational leader who like it tells you all these facts of what's going on, and basically it's interviews from employees about their leader and how he doesn't listen to them, he doesn't want to change the way he does things. And then you've got this executive who brought you in who needs help, and he's very aware that his partner his manager is not wanting to change or blah, blah, blah. And so you're trying to figure out how to engage somebody who is stuck in their ways, does not want to change, and how to manage that, how to manage it for the benefit of the company and for the benefit of the person, because it is a human being that you're dealing with, and there are reasons that they don't want to change, you know. So that was an interesting course because my first instinct was like, well, I don't want to deal with somebody who doesn't want to change. Like, what am I here for? If you don't want to talk to me, I'll just leave. But like, that's not a way to do business. That's not a way to, like, that doesn't help the organization, that doesn't help them, and it doesn't help me because then I don't get to work, you know, with that organization. So I had to learn how to manage difficult personalities, I guess you could say. Difficult, I don't want to say personalities, well, what should I say here? Difficult things. You have to learn how to manage like people who just are stuck in what they want to do, and understand where they're coming from with that. And I think have some counseling skills actually go along with that, because you, especially if you work with children, you deal with parents who are stuck in their parenting ways. They do not want to change. And so this is where IO and counseling skills kind of really collide together, because it's a delicate balance, because you're talking about somebody's child. And in the same sense with organizations, you're talking about somebody's business, and their business is their child, even though they may have children, but their business is one of those children. They grew it, they care about it. This is the way it is. This is the way it's been. Here you are, a new person. You don't know anything about me or my organization except for what people tell you or what you read. And you're going to try and tell me how to do my job. So counseling skills came in handy there, but also this course actually helped with that stuff too. So there you go with that. Okay, so moving on. We went to treatment planning. I took treatment planning in the summer, and at this point in my program, I was able to double up courses. So I took treatment planning and trauma counseling, and I don't remember if trauma counseling is a requirement for my state, but it was something that I was interested in anyway, so I was going to take it regardless. And now I'm a trauma specialist and project coordinator, so it came in handy. And I actually did a lot of trauma work in my internship year, which I'll talk about later. But anyways, moving on, advanced research methods and design, qualitative methods. So that was an interesting course, because we, in undergrad, we talked a lot about quantitative methods and research. When we were reviewing research methods, and we talked a little bit about qualitative, but the huge focus, I think, was on quantitative. And so I didn't know too much about qualitative methods, except for it's not quantitative. So this course was like in depth about like, did we do a qualitative analysis? I don't think we did one. It would have taken way too long to do one. I think we just learned about them pretty in depth. So like, oh wait, you know what, we might have, because I remember we had to we didn't actually do it. We had to talk about how we would do it, the steps we would take, what programs we would use to organize our data, what method we would use to analyze the data, and things like that. I really liked that course. I learned a lot there. Okay, so group theories and processes of counseling, and then I did residency too as well, and I did addictions and substance abuse counseling. So that addictions and substance abuse counseling is a requirement to be licensed in my state. So I knew that going in, and so I took that, signed up for that course. Quickly, I'll talk about this clinical mental health counseling course. I'm pretty sure that's the course where we had to learn about every single thing that we needed to know to do in our program in order to become licensed in our state. Because a lot of times, and it's so weird because it's like really reputable schools around here will have programs, but they won't focus like, okay, so your counseling program should be KCREP accredited, and if it's not, then you have to do a whole thing with the state in order to like make sure that your courses align with KCREP standards so that you can become licensed. So you can still be licensed, at least in my state, you can still be licensed if you don't go to a KCREP school, accredited school, but there are extra steps you have to take. It's just easier to go to a KCREP accredited school. However, there are KCREP accredited schools that do not, you have to also know what your state requires for licensure. You have to know this. You cannot just rely on it's KCREP accredited, because I know of somebody one of the places, the place that I used to work as a counselor, who finished school. It's a really great school, you know, it's high standard, like it's what is it, you know, when a school is really reputable, everybody knows about it and things like that. It's like you look at the school and it's like, oh right, that's a great school. But she can't get licensed in our state because they didn't offer her, the school didn't have the course that is necessary for licensure. Or they had it, but it wasn't it wasn't teaching the things that the state requires. So you need to make sure that you know what the heck your state requires, and the standards. Like, it can't just say, okay, I took a psychopathology course. Well, what did it teach you? There's going to be on your state like licensure page on the website. It's going to tell you exactly what your course needs to be teaching you. So you have to make sure that your program has that. You have to make sure whatever it is that the the classes are, that they align with what the state wants. Otherwise, you're in a position where you've graduated school and then you have to go back just to take one course, and you can't get licensed. So it's a whole thing with insurance, and that impacts your ability to make money as a counselor and all sorts of things. So just don't go through that headache. Make sure you know what your state requires, and don't just rely on your institution to provide you with what you need. Make sure going into it that they do provide you with what you need, and things like that. So be prepared. So in year one, at my program, they made sure that you knew exactly what you needed to do for your state to be licensed, and what classes you needed to take and what those classes needed to entail. So I knew that I needed to take this addictions course, so I signed up for it. I'm pretty sure trauma counseling was a requirement, so I signed up for that too, which is good, because, and I could see why it's a requirement, because literally I had so many trauma counseling clients in an internship and after I graduated. So anyway, that's a little bit of a side note. Okay, so then I took quantitative methods here. Oh, residency too was just like, we just did more counseling skills for another week in person. This was before COVID. A whole week long, all day, all night. Not all night, all day into night, like into evening time, of counseling skills work, and we focus on group counseling specifically. So that was a fun course, and that was a fun residency. They were both fun to me, but one was more stressful than the other. The first one was more stressful, but I won't get into why that was, because it's like a very specific thing that happened that year for our class. But anyway, advanced research. Okay, so quantitative methods, that's self-explanatory. It talks about the statistics and all you have to do with that, blah, 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 blah. Okay, assessment of individuals. This is an assessments course. That's pretty self-explanatory too. We talked about different assessments, what assessments can a licensed counselor do, which ones can only a psychologist do. A psychologist can do this. A counselor could do this if they are trained in advanced assessment skills and things like that. So, but yeah, there's like 3 different levels of assessments, and you have to know which ones you can do and which ones you need higher level for. So for example, if I have a client who needs, I think, neuropsychological testing, I'm not going to do that because I'm not a neuropsychologist. I'm going to refer them to a neuropsychologist. I'm going to have them sign like a consent form so that I can speak to the neuropsychologist that they choose, and I can get that information, and I can consult with them about treatment and things like that. But if I want to measure, let's say, somebody's like anxiety levels, and I'm treating them for anxiety, and I want to track progress throughout the time that I'm with them to see if their anxiety is staying the same or decreasing or increasing, I can do that. I'm qualified to do that. So, yeah. Advanced human factors. This is more about, like, I don't know if you've heard of human factors engineering, but it's kind of about that, where you're thinking about like the office space or the workspace and how effective it is in helping people at the workplace, I guess, like ergonomic seats, ergonomic mouse. Basically, like how people lift things in the office. Are you lifting boxes? How are you lifting your boxes? Things like that. Like, is the workplace structured in a way that is safe? And is it structured in a way that, like, will get the most out of your workers? Is the lighting too bright? Is it too dim? Is it hard to see? Is it, is it kind of depressing in there? is there a lot of sunlight so that people feel more energized? Is there too much sunlight so people get too distracted or can't see? Or sometimes too much sunlight can actually make you tired, so it can have the reverse effect. So that was a really interesting course too. I liked that one a lot too. Methods of research and program evaluation. Now this is where IO Psych and counseling kind of overlapped with each other, so it kind of felt like I was taking the same course 3 times at some points, because I took 2 research methods courses here, right, already. And so here we go into another one. Now this one was focused on counseling, but it was about program evaluation. So it's not just about evaluating how your counseling is going, but how your entire program is going. So one of the things we did in this clinical mental health counseling course was we actually pretended to make like a counseling program. And so I think that with this course, we had to like measure how another fictitious counseling program that we would create, how effective it was, and how we would do that, and the statistics we would use, all of that stuff. So again, it kind of just felt like, oh, I'm taking another research methods course. But hey, guess what? That means that I really should know my research methods now. I've taken one in undergrad. I've taken one in my master's program of IO psychology. I've taken 2 in my doctorate program of IO psychology. So just 2. I took statistics, but that's not research methods. That's just statistics. So yeah, I think it's just 2, 1, 2. And then I took another one here. So I've taken 5 research methods courses. I should know research methods pretty well, and how to apply research and do them in the workplace and things like that. But yeah, so anyways, assessment of individual differences. Again, this is where counseling and IO overlap, because I took an assessment course here. So it was kind of interesting though, because the assessments you do in IO psychology are very different from counseling. I'm not caring about people's anxiety levels so much unless I'm brought in for like something terrible has happened and now it's like post-traumatic event. And in that case, it probably would be more counseling anyway, but there's an IO component. But this mostly focused on people applying to a job and assessing their individual differences, assessing like who's going to be most, who's going to be better in this position. That's basically what that was about. And then also, I think it also had to do with employees' differences and how to manage those things. Okay, so this was just like for me to think about, oh, what do I want to do for practicum this year? Because I wanted to make sure I had applicable skills as well as research skills in my IO program. And so I just like wrote places that I thought, oh, I think I'll do practicums at this place or that place. And I didn't end up doing it. What ended up happening, oh, there's more down here too. What ended up happening was, okay, I did write that I did an internship. Oh yeah, this practicum here, actually, I did longer than 200 hours. I did it longer than that, for 8 months, I think it was. And so it kind of overlapped with like this year here. But what I ended up doing, I think the second year, was that the second year? I can't remember, but I ended up doing other things that were practical skills. I didn't end up going to any of these places. It was just me thinking about who I could connect with to get some practical skills. But I ended up doing other things to get practical skills. Wasn't any of those places though. Okay, year 3, 2020, man, oh man. That was a doozy of a year. How I did all this in 2020, I don't know, but I did. So this was the year that I started my practicum. I did practicum for spring, and it was, so this year everything was normal. Everything was fine, right? So this was January. I did practicum and I had couples and family counseling as well. I can't remember if that was, I think that was a core course. I don't remember. Yeah, it was a core course. Yep. And then I did advanced talent management and motivation as well. Everything's fine, normal, whatever. Practicum, here I'm still doing practicum. Then I took career development and counseling. I think that I didn't want to take this course though. I'm pretty sure, no, I did want to take this course. I did. I'll get to something else that I didn't want to take, but I took it anyway later. But anyways, here I did a career development and counseling, and I figured this goes with IO too because I may have to in the workplace help somebody with like career development and coaching. And I actually did do that when I was the director of a nonprofit. That was actually in 2020. Okay, so that's another thing. That's one of the reasons I didn't do the practicums was because I started a job as a executive director of a nonprofit around this time, like at the end of this year here. And so I was like, oh, I don't need to do practicums because this is basically, going to incorporate some IO skills anyway, so it'll be fine. So I ended up doing some career development type stuff with like the managers because I would have like performance meetings. Like I didn't know what else to call them, but they really weren't like, oh, you're sucking at this and you need to do better at that. It was more just like conversations that I would have with staff about what can I do better to be a good leader for you? What are you interested in learning more about? What do you think needs to change or what can we do better at? And what, is going well, do you think? And blah, blah, blah. It, calling it performance evaluation made people nervous. And so once they realized what it actually was, and it was just a meeting, I should just call it a meeting, they were fine and like calm about everything. But yeah, that's something that I learned during COVID. And I actually learned it from one of like these neuro leaderships. It's an organization, was it neuro leadership? I don't know. It's a business that incorporates neuropsychology into organizational psychology, basically. But they had an article about how to basically lead people through COVID and your communication with people through COVID, because you're not seeing them in the face. You're not seeing them face to face as much anymore. So how do you communicate effectively in a virtual world? And so we did Zoom meetings and we had, talked about those things. But also my other program, we talked in my talent management course, we talked a lot about how to manage performance in a positive way, and not just in a quantitative way, but also making sure that you're caring about the person and what they want to do, and understanding that you're also a person with flaws. As a leader, you need to know what your employees need in order to thrive. Like, what are their learning styles? What are their performance styles? What do they prefer? How do they prefer to work? When do they prefer to work? And when are they most engaged in their work? When are they most effective? And things like that. And what can you do better for them to develop? Because as they develop, your organization develops. And things like that. So that was an interesting course because it kind of overlapped with this one here. So yeah, but anyways, it's more focused on if you have a client who comes in and they need help with like their careers or whatever, they don't know what to do next. What you'll find in counseling is that you'll have people come in with a presenting problem, but their presenting problem has a lot of layers and it's probably not the actual problem. So I would have people come in for trauma, they'll come in for depression, but it turns out something traumatic happened to them and they're having PTSD symptoms. And you'll also find that because that traumatic thing happened to them, they are now disabled in some way. And so they can't do what they used to do for their career, and that impacts their self-esteem, which in turn helps to aid in their depression increasing, because now they have less of a quality of life because they can't do what they used to do. They're trying to adapt to this new, world of now I can't move the way that I used to. My doctor's saying I need a different kind of job now because I can't do the things I used to. And basically like managing the disability and also dealing with the trauma, PTSD. symptoms. So you'll get to the point where you'll realize you need to do a lot of things. So you have to start with managing those PTSD symptoms and processing the trauma to decrease the PTSD symptoms, because if they don't decrease those, they're not going to be able to function in their career, and they're not going to be able to think about the career. They don't care about that right now, but it is a part of what is causing the depression, right? So that is eventually something that has to be incorporated into the treatment plan. So anyways, that's all just to say that one of the things I learned in my counseling program that they told us was that you can say that you're not going to want to do career counseling, but you're going to find that you're going to have clients who are in for depression or anxiety or PTSD or whatever the case may be, even if you're working in adolescence, like even if you're working with children. I had adolescent, clients who were at the end of high school and were freaking out because they didn't know what they wanted to do after high school. So there's career development, again, comes into play. So you really can't get away from it, is what I'm trying to say. You can't come into counseling thinking, I only want to work with this type of thing, because people are multifaceted, and you have a career, you have a family, you're a couple probably, or you're not a couple and you want to be, or you had bad relationships in the past or whatever. You've got this trauma history. You've got, people are not singular. Like, you cannot just work on what, so it all goes together. But yeah, so that was what that course was about. Career development, helping people, doing career assessments, and basically helping people figure out what careers work best for them. Then I was in internship 1. I didn't have any courses that term, or not that semester, or whatever. Term. I had 1 course that semester. I'll get to that in a second. So then I took advanced performance management and feedback, and I talked about that a little bit here. That kind of overlapped with this class here. Okay. Leadership and management, they all kind of went together. Okay, so internship 1, and then advanced psychological assessment. This is a course that I didn't want to take. I wanted to take child and adolescent counseling, but can you believe that not enough people wanted to take that class, so my school dropped it, and so I ended up having to take this one. It's fine, whatever. But it was, another assessments class, and yeah. It was just another assessments class, which I wasn't thrilled about. But not that I don't like assessments, it's just like, how many assessments classes can you take? Come on. Okay, so advanced recruitment, selection, and placement is the next thing I took here. And then I started my dissertation, which basically just meant I didn't really start the dissertation. I just was doing the research for the literature review. That's all they let you take at that point, because you have to take your doctoral qualifying exam first before you can start doing any of the data stuff or collecting data and all that stuff. So anyway, internship 2, boards capstone. We had a capstone project. And actually, because of COVID, I ended up moving my boards exam. So that didn't happen either. At that point, the vaccines weren't out yet. And I was like, I'm not going to risk my life, because we didn't know enough about COVID yet. I was like, I'm not going to risk my life for taking a test. So I just continued my internship. At this point, I was doing virtual. Over here, I was in person, and then I think around here, mid-internship, we moved to virtual because of the state mandates, which it didn't require us to shut down or not be in person because we were essential or whatever, but obviously if you don't have to be in person, then don't be. So we did virtual counseling. So then we went and I took advanced training and development, and I continued with my doctoral research, prepared for my doctoral qualifying exam, which I thought was going to be one thing, but ended up being another thing. So I really didn't prepare for it at all. So here, okay, so at this point I had graduated, right? I was done with my internship too. So I was done with my clinical program. This was the last year of my clinical program, but I was still doing my IO program. So I am now into this part. I'm in year 4 of my IO program, and doing post-grad work on my counseling portion. I'm doing my counseling hours now. I have to take my board exam, but I'm like, you have in my state 4 years to get your hours done so that you can become fully licensed. So I am kind of taking my time. But they always say take it sooner rather than later because everything's fresh in your mind right now. But I'm taking the NCMHCE, not the NCE. So the NCE is more like multiple choice, where both of them are multiple choice, but it's the standard multiple choice like that you're used to throughout school. NCMHCE is like case studies with multiple choice, and people say it is a much harder exam and than the NCE, and I think it's just harder because we're not used to taking a test like that. Personally, I prefer the NCMHCE exam because my state will take either one for licensure. I should start there. You have to know which test you can take to be licensed. Don't spend hundreds of dollars on a test to find out that you're not licensed or whatever, or that I won't take that test. But mine take either one. So I'm taking the NCHCE. I took it once, and I was like 7 points away from passing. I was so upset. I was like 7 points, just 7. That's nothing. If I had just bombed it, that would have been better than being that close and not passing. So, but that exam really, I think, is more for people who are good at thinking like with case study wise, and like it was asking me questions about things that I hadn't learned yet, and so I was like, I really need more experience in the field to answer some of these questions. I don't know I don't know this, and so I found myself guessing at certain points. But the NCE is more like focused on like facts, like okay, what year was psychoanalysis developed, and who founded the 8 stages of development or whatever, and what did Erik Erikson, blah, 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 those kind of factual like things that you take in undergrad, and I hate those tests. I'm used to those tests, and that test is easier, people say, but I want to take the NCMHC. I like doing things the hard way. I don't know why I like that. I just want to take that one, and so I'm preparing myself still for that test. But anyways, you can still work under LPCIT license while you're studying for your full licensure exam, because you still need like a certain amount of hours in the counseling profession to become fully licensed anyway. So that's what I'm working on now. But anyways, I'm also doing my doctoral qualifying exam. And yeah, and writing my dissertation. Oh no, I did this already. So this was earlier this year. I was 9 months pregnant, 2 weeks away from my due date, and I did my doctoral qualifying exam seminar because I was like, well, that's just how it lined up. But I told my professor, can I do my assessment early so that I don't have to worry about it? And he's like, yes, because I told him I'm close to delivery. I don't want to have to worry about this postpartum, so can we just do it? And he was like, yes. So I passed that. And then I did, and then basically you have to pass this in order to start data collection. So I finished my data collection now, and now I'm in the process of data analysis. So figuring out, basically I'm doing a quantitative study. It was going to be a multivariate multiple regression, but now it's just a multiple regression because the multivariate requires so many more participants than I have. Like I needed 148, and now I have 100 something. And I just was like, I just want to, let's not do that. So we're moving to a multiple regression, and that is what we're going to do. It's approved by my chair, so that's the route I'm going. And so there you go. So anyways, for the doctoral qualifying exam at my school, it was a whole course, and basically it had 3 major case studies, with the last one being like the most involved. And that one was the one where you had to like do a presentation to our professor, our instructor, as if he is the executive that you're presenting to. So we did the doctoral qualifying exam. Was pretty comprehensive. It like incorporates a little bit of everything that we went through for the past 3 years, and asks you how you would apply this, how you apply, not in those exact words. It doesn't ask you, how do you apply job analysis to this here? It doesn't ask you that. It tells you, this is what's going on with this organization. What are you going to do about it, basically? And so we had 3 prompts and due at different times. And so the last one was the hardest, because the first 2, one was about job and task analysis, as well as like human factors and performance management and some other things. And the other one was about multiculturalism and something else. And the last one was more about like statistics and data. Like, okay, we did this survey at our job. This is the data, make it make sense. And so it was just that ambiguous. Like, I'm not even kidding. They didn't say make it make sense, but they may as well have, because there was no, like, they just basically said, this is what we want to know, make it make sense. And so you had to figure out which statistics are going to work best for what they want to know, plus what do you as an IO psychologist think would be most beneficial for them to know about, and run those statistics as well and then present it. Now, I was thinking that I needed to run one statistical analysis and present it, giving them all the information that they wanted. It took me days, like literally days, to realize that's not what they needed. not what the prompt said. It said that they wanted to know these things, but didn't say how. So I ended up running multiple analyses because I realized I don't need to do just one. I can do multiples. So I did 2 chi-square tests, I think a multiple regression and an ANOVA, maybe, I think. I don't remember. But yeah, so then I just, then you present it in a way that people who don't have statistical knowledge can understand. And then you tell them what they should do, like applicable steps or actionable steps, were very important, and that was a huge part of the project, was that you not only tell them what the statistics mean, but what to do about it. Like, okay, so you're saying that this group of people feels this certain way, so what do we do about that? What are your suggestions? Where do we go from here, type of thing. So yeah, and then you get feedback in real time from first he asks a bunch of questions as if he is the organizational leader. After he's done with all of that, and it's pretty clear that we've exhausted that conversation, he then gives you like a real-time feedback, like, okay, so you have to do this better or do that better. But he was like nice about it and stuff. But yeah, so this basically like tips for the future when you're out in the field and you're presenting data to an organization. This is what you should do differently, and this is what you did well. And then you pass or you fail. Basically what it was. So yeah. So now I'm like probably down here somewhere because I'm doing the doctoral dissertation part of my stuff. So that's what I already said that I'm doing. So that is basically it. Thank you for watching my video. I hope it helped you to understand like the different classes that you would take in each program with IO psychology versus counseling. People ask what is IO psychology? Well, that video or this video kind of explains what I've learned in my program, and then so people want to know also how it relates, and I showed you some courses that overlap and why they overlap, and how these different concepts like assessment are used differently in both fields. So I hope that helped you. Thank you for watching.